Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 343. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what is up? I think I got bit by a werewolf, so if stuff starts getting crazy, Pete, keep the camera on.
Why do you think you got bit by a werewolf?
Well, I was playing football this afternoon or this morning, and I looked down in line to get food, and I have it looks like a bite mark. I don't know where it came from. So, I don't remember running into any werewolves, and it was in broad daylight, but you never know.
Okay, that's how we're starting this episode. This is the DC Comics podcast. We get together and talk about the books we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Batman issue 132, The Flash 792, Poison Ivy issue 9, Gotham City Year 1 issue 5, and Monkey Prince issue 11. Quite a week. I mean, I only read 3 of those 5 books. Matt, the trooper that he is, read all 5.
I mean, I'm already into Monkey Prince, and it's, we're getting towards the end, and it's Ivy, and Takara's back, so of course I'm gonna read Ivy.
Of course. It's a weird. I was commenting just before we started that it's a really weird schedule at DC right now for us, because this week and next week are quite quiet, and then it sort of ramps up to a more normal amount for the last couple of weeks of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully these new books come out over the next few months. I don't remember checking the dates for the ones coming out in April and May, but hopefully they're in the first couple of Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Because those weeks could use a few extra books. But we'll get into all that. There was a couple of little bits of news. It's not like last week where we had a whole movie and TV slate to talk about, but there's a little bit.
Yeah.
But before all that, Matt.
What?
What time is it, Matt?
Clobbering time.
No. It's not clobbering time.
It's time for you to get a watch.
No.
It is, what time did Marty go back to the past? So like 10:26 or something? It's not 10:26.
I don't remember the exact time in the clock and Back to the Future, no.
Time for vanilla. No, that's not. There's room for vanilla. I don't know. What time is it?
It's always time for Comixology Top 10, Matt.
It's time to get ill. No?
It's always time. You know this.
I know.
You know this.
I wanted to see how long you're going to drag it out for it. And then what happened is we both played chicken and we both lost.
There was other time, Joe. You didn't even say Vader time. You didn't say... I don't know, Hammer time. That's a popular one. People say Hammer time.
It is him. With the Vader one though, he doesn't immediately come to mind because I wasn't a big Vader guy. So I mean, looking back, I should have been. But yeah, he scared me when I was younger. So he was the bully's dad on Boy Meets World. That's how I knew Vader. So yeah.
But yes, always time for Comixology Top 10. We'll look at Tuesday's books, which are DC's, and then Wednesday, which is the rest of the industry, because that's how they're split up in Comixology. So as of right now, which is Saturday, what do you think the best-selling book from DC is?
I'm going to guess that it's Batman.
It is Batman. It's not a hard week to predict.
Nah.
Batman 132 at number 1. Number 2 is Lazarus Planet. Next Evolution, is that what that issue was called this week?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have that, and number 3 is The Flash 792.
All right.
Number 4 is Batman and the Joker, The Deadly Duo. And then number 5 is Gotham City Year 1, issue 5. And then, after that, we hit Static issue 1. So
there was a Static issue 1?
Yes.
It's not coming up on League of Comic Heats as I'm looking, so maybe that was maybe
digital only then.
Yeah.
If that's the case. Which, fair enough. And then you got Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing at number 7. Number 8 is Poison Ivy issue 9. Number 9 is Monkey Prince issue 11. And that's it for the single issues, because then it's Swamp Thing by Ram V volume, I assume that's volume 2, just given that I expect that to be coming out.
Yeah.
Well, I tell a lie. There was one more single issue. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, is also there. But
although I think there was Ram V Volume 3 was the one that came out because it had the Parliament of Gears on the cover.
This might be. Oh, yeah, right, it's volume 3. You're right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yep.
I guess I just didn't realize that was split into 3 volumes.
I didn't either. It would make sense that it was the the first chunk and then the back chunk, but
I guess they split the first chunk into 2 and then.
Yeah.
No, they did because they had the 2 future state issues and then issues 1 to 4, and then they had 5 to 10, and then yeah. Okay. It makes a relative amount of sense. So yeah, that's DC top 10. Nothing too exciting there, I would say. Static being above a Joker and Poison Ivy books, kind of cool for Static, I guess.
Yeah.
But other than that, nothing too exciting or surprising to talk about. Wednesday's books, just to have a look at the rest of the industry. Any guesses as to what number 1 is, Matt?
So I'm looking on Leave Comic Geeks. It has 1 in the number 1 spot, but I'm also checking for any of the events, and I don't see anything. But I do see these Goblin books, and there's a gold and a red. So I don't know if those are tie-ins or not. But I'm just going to take a guess and say it's Amazing Spider-Man.
It is not.
Nope. Okay. Let's see. There's a red goblin. There's a gold goblin. It's not Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants 1, is it?
It is.
Ah, man.
Yeah.
Dang.
Al Ewing on this one as well.
Hey, what is this about? What is Storm doing? Storm?
I think this is tying into the Sinister event because it's got a banner at the top. So
it does, doesn't it?
It'll just be that.
The Sinister.
Yeah. And then we have Bishop War College at number 2. So another X-Men book.
That doesn't sound like a X-Men book as much as it sounds like a D3 football school. Bishop War College.
I tell you what, X-Men's in a good place when this random Bishop book is outselling Daredevil and Spider-Man, because number 3 is Daredevil issue 8, and number 4 is Amazing Spider-Man. So, congratulations, Bishop.
Yeah.
You're outselling the heavies. Number 5 is Miracle Man. Number 6 is Darth Vader. Which is Greg Pak right now, apparently. Which so cool. Number 7 is Secret Invasion issue 4. Number 8 is Star Wars Hidden Empire. Number 9 is our first non-Marvel book, and that is Little Monsters issue 10. This is Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. Which I have not read any of yet, but obviously those 2 names together are of interest.
I got into their, what was it, Ascender or Descender? One of the 2?
Descend. Well, they did both, actually.
Right.
Descender was first, and then it was Ascender was the second one.
I got like 3 issues into that. I'm like, I'm going to trade rate this, and then I never found my way back. It was good. It was just the in-between waiting. But what is this, a vampire book, or what is this?
I don't know.
So it's saying interesting twist of the vampiric genre. So,
there you go.
Cool.
And then number 10 is back to Marvel with Red Goblin issue 1. So... we
got red Hulks, we got red goblins, we got gray Hulks and gold goblins. What's going on over there?
There's a gold goblin book as well. It's on issue 4 this week. That's just a few notches down. Philip K. Johnson's Alien book was at number 12. As far as like non-Marvel stuff that looks of note, Sonic's ongoing book at number 17. Yeah. That's all I got for you. I don't think I have any other hot takes. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say about the Wednesday numbers. Marvel's events seem to do well for them, to the point where they're consistently outselling some of their bigger characters, which are, Daredevil especially is being kind of, critically praised for having a great run right now.
Yeah.
So fair play to Storm.
Just
and
found
Bishop.
out why Static didn't show up on the DC list because League of Comic Geeks has it split into Milestone, so Milestone's its own imprint. So because now I'm seeing it now that I unselected DC and selected all the rest.
Do you know what they used to do that with the whatever
Bendis?
Yeah, whatever line Young Justice was in, it always never showed up in the main list. It was always on that second one, and it threw us occasionally. Yeah. Okay, that's annoying, but it is what it is. So there you go. That's the top 10 for this week. Nothing much more to add. All right. So yeah, there's a couple of bits of news to get into. Not nothing we'll talk about too much, I don't think. First up is the Poison Ivy book is officially an ongoing. It was meant to end with issue 12, but it is going to get an issue 13 in June, and that is officially put into ongoing status. So obviously it's doing well enough. It does tend to be a bit lower on the digital top 10, but I wonder if all the variants that it comes with is probably boosting the physical numbers quite a bit.
Yeah, so usually I don't get variants unless it's like a really good like Frisian cover or whatever. When I showed up at my shop on Wednesday at my normal time, all the regular covers were gone, and all they had left were the variants that are $1 more. So I grabbed one of the variants because the guy that puts my box together apparently was sick and it got missed. So, but that's okay. I got a good cover. I'm not upset. But yeah. So I mean, I would assume that means it's selling good because they have all those variants.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever the numbers they need to hit for these books to keep doing well. I mean, Harley's showing up in issue 13, so...
Harley shows up in this issue, too.
Oh, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, there's more Harley in issue 13. So, that's that. And then the other thing, which was something Tom Taylor was teasing for a couple of days, and revealed on Twitter, is that the Superman John Kent series... What's the new one called? Adventures of Superman.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Adventures. Okay. I think it's Adventures of Superboy. No?
That's not Superboy. It's definitely not called Superboy.
It's Adventures of Superman.
Yeah.
And it's a six issue miniseries.
Yes. So yeah, Adventures of Superman John Kent. That's the full title. So he's revealed that somewhere into the series, probably around issue 3 or 4, Injustice Superman is going to be in the book. And John's going to interact with that universe, which is notable because Tom Taylor, before he wrote any of the books that we ever spoke about on this show, the one thing he was doing at DC for a long time was writing the Injustice comics, which got a lot of praise at the time, actually.
I've read the first 12 issues, and I don't like the grim and dark version of Superman. However, it's Tom Taylor doing it, and he understands all the other characters around it. And you like... The way that it plays up on the evil Superman trope is really good because he doesn't lean into evil Superman. It's, lawful evil kind of Superman where there's still rules and stuff, and he's, very feared. And so I'm excited to see him interact with this version of John Kent.
Yeah, and this is very much the first time, as far as I know, that Injustice universe is properly intermingling. I mean, I'm sure it's been referenced here or there whenever they do like, oh, here's like 100 universes, one per panel. We've seen the Injustice universe in those types of contexts, but this is the first time I think it's actually been like a proper story where a main character from the main universe is interacting with those characters. It also mentions he's going to like sort of conflict with that world's version of Damian, who's very different to regular Damian. So it's kind of interesting that in a story that seems to be mainly focused around John taking on Ultraman as he's kind of his arch nemesis, that we're going to be dealing with other universes' version of bad Superman and how John's going to deal with that.
Yeah, I almost wonder if that at that point, because Ultraman is like bad, right? That's the whole point of Earth 3. There's no, there's supposed to be no redeeming qualities in those guys. Whereas I feel like with Injustice, it's almost like the lesser of two evils kind of deal. But yeah, Taylor, I'm sure, has had this plan for a while, right? Like, well, maybe not for a while, but you know what I mean? Like, if anyone could pull this off, it's him.
Yeah, I mean, well, Injustice Superman's very much like he was regular Superman until something broke him. Something changed him. Whereas Ultraman was never like Superman. No. He was never that.
Well, he's not even Kryptonian, right? Like he is a NASA astronaut that eats kryptonite.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, but even aside from like how he gets powers and whatnot, like he was never, the personality wise, he was never Superman. He never was good. He was never pure or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you know Injustice Superman's origin, then it's curious to see how that plays in with John.
I imagine it'll be a big deal when he learns what turned this Superman evil.
Yep. So, I'm sure there'll be some pretty good commentary from Taylor on this. So it's weird that his time on John's coming to an end, right? Like it's been pretty consistent for the last
Well, we
when
can't
did
know
that
what's
start?
replacing it because he's doing a Titans book right around the time this will be not quite finished, but it'll be almost finished by the time Titans is starting. So it feels like that's kind of what's replacing that, and I'm pumped for Titans, so I'm not too mad.
Oh no, me neither.
By any means.
I'm just looking back at when it started with the War World stuff, and then John took over, and he's had a pretty substantial, take on John Kent, and this is him wrapping it up. So.
Yeah, but I think we've all been in agreement though that his Superman John Kent is on the lower end of his DC work. Like
yeah, it's okay, it's serviceable.
Yeah, like Nightwing being at the top, I would say Suicide Squad is like probably second, and that's not necessarily a widespread opinion. Like I know some people online who hate that book, but
mostly probably because they wanted it to be a Suicide Squad book, and it was more of that. I forget their name. Whether they're not freedom fighters,
the Revolutionaries.
The Revolutionaries, their book, and so I like that. I like when they do backdoor titles like that, but it's still with Harley and Deadshot still felt like a Suicide Squad book. But I don't know. Suicide Squad fans are very hyper focused on what they like. I feel. I ran into one at the comic book shop before, and oh boy, let me tell you, really defended that first movie. Really defended that first movie.
That first movie was
rough.
I think rough's underselling it, to be honest. A steaming pile of shit is maybe a better descriptor. But
never forget about 20 minutes in, my wife leaned over to me and goes, "I don't know what's going on." I said, "That's all right. We're in the same boat."
There's a moment at the start of that, and I've told this story before, but there's a moment at the start of that movie where I don't know if it's like a credit comes up or it's like a title saying that we're about to see Arkham or whatever, but it comes up as the camera's like flying across like the ocean, and because the sun's hitting off of it, you can't read the text. They didn't put like a drop shadow on the text, and I'm like, if that's an indication of the level of quality and care that's went into the rest of this movie, then we were in for a really rough time.
I just remember this guy at the shop was like, "Yeah, that's that was good enough. Ostrander, that felt like an Ostrander story." And I was like, "Look, I'm gonna concede. I haven't read that much Ostrander Suicide Squad, but I don't know, man. For my journeys reading Suicide Squad, that didn't feel like it. So if you're happy though, I'm happy for you, bud. Oof.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah. So actually, I put just while we're on the movies and stuff, I put out a poll on our Twitter at DC Comics Podcast for anyone who wants to go follow. I put out a poll asking how people were feeling about the movie and TV slate. And there was 3 choices. The winner with 50% was positive. And then the other 50% were split between the other 2, which was skeptical but hopeful and just negative, like not feeling it.
Right.
So, at least from our audience, it does seem to be trending towards positive. Maybe with some skepticism, which I think is healthy. I think I'd put myself in between those 2 options. I would say I'm still a bit skeptical, but I was feeling a bit optimistic after reading the announcements.
Skeptical but open is where I am. Like, I'm very excited for his Superman, for Booster, for Gunn Superman and Booster and stuff. But I say Gunn's written Superman, but skeptical but open, definitely for sure. Seeing the stuff like the stuff that came out with Flash, and then remembering James Gunn calling it fantastic, but really feeling like he had to say that. I
have to say they put like a new poster for the Flash movie like yesterday, and it's really depressing that the first ever solo Flash movie, the poster has like a bat cape coming down from the top, and I love Batman. I do. Batman's like, I like Batman more than most other characters. I absolutely do, but I don't want I want all the other characters that I like to get their fair shake and not be overshadowed by Batman.
Turns out a lot of the people I follow or follow me are big time Flash fans, which of course, you find your people. They are very upset about that poster. And again, I understand the same boat, because it felt like Superman was an afterthought in BVS and Justice League. So I get it. But also it tells me how much faith that Warner Brothers has in that marketing campaign, that they're just like, "Oh, our very problematic star, don't worry about that. We have Batman." You know, that's how I'm taking this one. Is they're trying to take
We-
the distraction off of their star.
we have Batman. This isn't the Batman
Yeah.
from the successful Matt Reeves movie, or the Batman that's going to be in our new universe when things are reset. But there's a Batman.
Yeah, Michael Keaton's in this, right? Or was that in Batgirl?
No, he's in both, but yeah, he's in Flash. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we have Michael Keaton, all right, and Ben Affleck.
Well, we don't know if we got Ben Affleck. They might cut that stuff.
Oh boy.
Because
Maybe
apparently Aquaman 2 had cameos from Batman and maybe Wonder Woman, and they might have been cut out.
Oh my goodness. No wonder Ben Affleck looks so sad at the Grammys.
Well, I think, to be fair, I get why though, because if the whole point of those scenes was that we're setting up more movies, and they've just, and since they've shot those scenes, they've hired new people in charge who have said, no, we're doing this whole new slate, and we're leaving most of this stuff behind. They can't have the teasers in there, and this was right after that Superman scene in Black Adam, which I've not seen, but it was like, hey, we may get Henry Cavill versus The Rock, and you're not seeing either of those ever again.
Nope, man. But yeah, so fun times being a DC fan. I just want to get that over. That might be the first DC movie I go out of my way not to see. Although I say that now. But it took me till home release and wrapping presents to watch Black Adam.
I've still not watched Black Adam.
Yeah. But again, I wouldn't expect you to. Black Adam definitely did not seem like I could definitely see you giving up. Starting it, get 20 minutes in and be like, I have better things to do.
I like a proper Black Adam movie I may be into, although I don't see the point of Black Adam without doing, him with Shazam first, but whatever.
Yeah, they have the opportunity to do something interesting with it, but of course The Rock can't do that. So, they do the boring option for Black Adam's origin instead. And
at any point did they say, do you smell what the wizard is cooking?
No, and it was very disappointing. He didn't drop anybody with a rock bottom. He didn't do the wizard's elbow.
The wizard's elbow.
But yeah.
God, so many puns, so many references could be made. I don't know. The whole thing's a bit of a wet fart. So I don't know. We have another year or so of these leftover movies coming out, which are probably. It feels kind of sad because I saw I don't know what it was, but it was Zachary Levi was doing some interview or something, or there's a little promotional video for Shazam 2, and I'm like, something about this marketing campaign just feels a little bit like going through the motions and very sad, and I don't know if there's any real hype by and large for these movies that are coming out that are these sequels to the old universe that, I mean, in theory, some of them could kind of stick around and be relevant, but I'm expecting Shazam 2 to underperform. I'm not expecting to do very well. I think it'll do less than the first movie. And the first movie did okay, but compared to other big superhero movies, I don't think it was breaking records or anything like that.
Yeah,
so.
And they were papering that because I ended up getting free tickets for a advanced screening a week before, and they had bumbled it because they also booked the seats through Fandango and the movie theater. So some guy showed up being like, "You're in our seats." I was like, "No, sir." So that was kind of a mess. And so, just kind of always felt like they weren't taking Shazam very seriously anyways, which is a shame because I do enjoy that first movie. So it's pretty good for what it is. But yeah, I mean, am I going to go see the Shazam 2? I don't know. If there's nothing going on that week,
Yeah, I'm not seeing any of these movies in the theaters. Maybe eventually I'll see them at home, but the next DC movie I see in the theater will likely be, if not the Batman Part 2, then if one of the other slate of this new gun universe is out before then maybe whatever that is. But
part of me is curious to see the Flash movie just because of Flash. But then my logical brain kicks over and it's no, you can't support because of the actor, because that dude's a real piece of, So it's do I want to support this or do I not? It's weird.
Probably not. Well, I mean, that's been a bit of a dilemma for a lot of people this past week with the new Harry Potter game coming out. Is the people want to support this game that took thousands of employees to make, but knowing that the royalties are all going to a person who's supporting some things and not even just has shitty opinions, but is actively kind of
going out of their way to remind you that they have
actively
cruel
campaigning, I guess, is maybe the best way of saying it. But that's a choice for each person to make, I suppose, and whatnot.
You know what that doesn't have any problematic fandom? Professional wrestling.
I don't know if that's true, Matt.
Oh, it's 100% false, Pete. That's why I said it that way. I said it that way.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think I disagree with that. So, no. That's about it. So, there you go. That's some...
Very, very excited for Poison Ivy to go full ongoing, because you could kind of feel... I'll talk about it more in this.
I thought you were going to say full frontal there.
No. Almost at some scenes this week. But no, it's you could feel it you could tell in the last couple issues Wilson kind of shifted. So it was just a matter of time before they announced it that it was going to get more than the initial. So I thought maybe they'd take it to like a 24 issue thing, but a full ongoing is very good. And I almost like how they played it that way. Of hey, if this keeps going, it reminded me of Ram V's Swamp Thing too, which, funnily enough, the similarities in those characters.
Obviously I didn't get ongoing. I just got the extra 6, but which is something that I could have seen happening with this as well. But clearly it's selling well. And again, I'm going to assume this is down to all those pretty variants that it seems to get.
The quality of the book is very good too. Let's just put that out there too.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm not disputing that it's. But is it as good as Swamp Thing though? I doubt it.
No, but that's a special run. Like it's an all timer.
Yeah, but it didn't sell gangbusters just on the fact that it was great.
That's true.
So
people don't listen to us enough, Pete. If they did, they would have been reading that from jump.
They should listen to us. For me at least anyway. Maybe you in passing.
I mean, that's fine. I have very questionable opinions. So.
Oh, I know. I've heard you speak about Kong Skull Island.
That movie's great. My third favorite movie of that year. Right? I have to go back and see what else came out that year, what beat it. But I just remember doing the countdown with Connor and Pete, and each spot after 9 that it didn't come up, they were getting a little bit worried it was going to be in the one spot. So when it finally came up at 3, there was a relief on both of them.
Oh dear.
But Connor's kind of hoping I made it number 1, just so he said it would validate the rest of my list.
For the record, that was just the top 10 movies of that year. Had this been like a decade list, like you would have been absolutely insane to have it that high.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't have been that high for that. But
arguably, you were insane anyway. But
I mean,
certainly for doing a decade and having that at number 3 would be nuts. All right, well, I guess we'll get into the books then. We got some comics. We got some comic redos to talk about. No?
That's a new word. No one has ever said that before.
Comic crackers? Comic...
That's what you could call us.
What?
Especially with Connor here and his gingerness.
I was going more for like a Christmas cracker. My reference there.
Yeah. Shows you how our societies are different, Pete.
Yeah, people in the UK don't really use the word cracker the way I think you took that there, Matt.
Yeah.
Just you have Christmas crackers. You have crackers that you put cheese on to eat.
You're talking. These are like the they're full of confetti, right?
Yeah.
Like we would call those poppers.
Poppers. Oh, it's never occurred to me that Americans don't use the phrase Christmas crackers. That's a good point. No.
To me, a Christmas cracker would be like a animal cracker type deal, like Christmas themed.
I thought you were going to say Santa Claus.
Yeah, that too. Sometimes.
Christmas crackers. It's like a.
This is a T-shirt.
It's a thing. One person has one side, the other person pulls the other side, and it pops. You get a bit of a spark, and there's usually like a joke in it or something.
Mm-hmm. I've seen Harry Potter. They get them in that.
Oh well. comics then, shall we?
Batman.
Batman 132, Chip Zdarsky writing with Mike Hawthorne on the art. And do you know what's so funny about this issue is that I read the first page or two and was like, I was very confused. I was like, what's going on? What's happening? I don't understand. And I got to the second page and went, oh, we're in a different universe. That's right.
Yeah, remember we got Venomed up Judge Dent. You know?
I had forgotten everything that was in that last issue until it reminded me.
Not to get too far ahead, though. I have no idea what Zdarsky's doing here, because with the backup, this is just such a weird way to play with the multiverse. But I do like seeing like alternate timelines and stuff like that. I just like seeing things a little bit off.
Yeah, I continue to be very conflicted, and there's certain things in this book that I find really tiring, and I'm like, oh, we have to go through these motions because we're in an alternate universe.
Yeah.
And, like I'm like, why are we doing this? But then there's other moments where like I think there's like the overall themes are handled very well. I think the ending of this issue, obviously a bit on the nose because it's a direct reference to year one, but like him basically, we said this last issue. We talked about how he's ultimately going to have to decide to help this version of Gotham, and that's what he does at the end. He decides, he's like, yes, Gotham, I shall become a bat. So he's directly paraphrasing year one, and it works well enough. But
I will, as good as that moment is, right? The one that got me is where he cooks breakfast for the young girl. I forget her name right now. And then he says like, yeah, I used to cook for my sons all the time. And that was just like a nice little moment. Like,
he says sons a few times in this when he's talking about the Robins, actually, which was kind of nice.
It shows his compassionate side, and sometimes I feel like writers really lean into the militant side of Batman and kind of the the GD Batman kind of trope where he treats the boys like they're soldiers. So the fact like he's like, oh no, I got to take care of this kid like I did my other ones and cook for her. And
this feels like there's some connective tissue here because there was also that scene in Nightwing last issue. So it feels like there's the same mentality has been shared across all the Bat books, which is nice. It doesn't feel like one's contradicting the other and how he's treating them. So.
Well, and in fact, this, I think is emboldened or bolstered by that scene in Nightwing. Yeah. Where him and Dick hug. So, and I like that. So,
yeah. And that the girl's character's name is Jewel.
Jewel, that's right.
Just to remind you. So yeah, we find out that Alfred and Leslie Tompkins are a couple here in this Earth. Which we might have learned about last issue and I forgot, but I'd forgotten about it. So but it's re-established here at the least if it was. And we just kind of get a sense of what this city is. That Jill kind of sneaks around. There's these like safe hideouts. Bruce is learning about the corruption here, which is that they're basically judge and jury, and they just send people to Arkham. And basically, when Jill catches him talking to like this skeleton garden. And he's like, oh, it's multiversal, something
sickness.
Yeah. She's like, nah, I don't think it is. There's a gas they pump into the air in Gotham to make us all crazy, or here's some pills that'll counteract it. And it's like, okay, that's kind of messed up, but all right.
I mean, it definitely it leans into the fear state idea of Crane, trying to use gas to control the populace, which I do like because again, that's Zdarsky taking off, some of the things that came before it. Yeah. So, but Skeleton Gordon is pretty cool though. Like I hope we can see him later.
He's probably my favorite part of this whole story. This art so far, to be honest, is just Skeleton Gordon's like comments and the way he looks and stuff.
Yeah.
So we get more teases of Red Mask again, who comes to put Dent in his place, and Dent's obviously, you can see him getting weaker, and then he gets more venom pills, and or Red Mask presses his button to give him more venom, and he hulks up again.
Well, I like too that he takes it away and it emaciates him, right? So he's like this. He looks like a scrawny.
He looks like Captain America before he got the serum. Is what he looks like. Right.
And so it takes it, and then he pumps him back with it. So it's almost like there's a steady stream of venom going through Dent, which makes him more dangerous, right? And I think that up Red Mask's dangerous-ness too. Because I feel like Red Mask is someone that's gonna be familiar. I haven't pinpointed it yet. But,
oh yeah, we said that last issue that it's probably going to be someone important.
But through this and through running things and how Arkham's situated, it's definitely something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning towards someone who's usually a good character, just because that makes more sense for shock value. But I mean, we'll see. Bruce's whole plan is that he finds out about who the rich guy is in this city. It was a really stupid name, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was like Baxter Williamson or something like that. But he's going to go to this gala and pretend to be rich, so that he can try and get to this scientist to invent stuff, because he's doing experiments and all that might help him like get back home, and that's his goal. So he goes to pretend to be rich. And there we see a couple of different things that are very important. Obviously, there's the moment where Alfred kind of sees him, and it's like he recognizes him, because he didn't know Bruce when he was younger, before he disappeared and died. But he also, of course, encounters Selena Kyle, who he kind of reacts to, and is like, oh shit, like, I kind of fall for her no matter where I go. She's always kind of dangerous. I don't know, who she's working for here, what her end game is.
There's a comment about her smell, which just, for whatever reason, rang true, right? He's like, oh man, even here she smells like Selena.
Yeah. Although notably she is dressed in red to match Red Mask. Couldn't help but notice that. And then the biggest thing though is probably that he looks up, and I wasn't sure if this was meant to be the rich guy that he was looking for, but he looks up to the balcony, because he was directed to go up there, which is why I think it might be that rich guy. But he looks up, and then he looks at the guy and says, that face, that smile," and then we get a panel showing like that this is the Joker in this universe with this name.
Which would make sense, because he was never pushed into the vat by Batman, So, maybe he redeemed himself in some way and hit it rich, and now he's this guy.
Oh man, that's making a lot of assumptions. Like, he could still be a psychopath here. He's just pretending to be a good guy. For
sure. But what I'm saying is, like, because of the whole organization of this building, it felt very Purge-like to me, to where, like, this is where the rich live, and they're protected from all of Dent and Arkham and all of this other stuff. And that's why at the beginning, Leslie's talking to Alfred about being safe when they go out, because outside the building, they're not protected.
Yeah. Yeah, which is good, because it still shows that she's a good character and Alfred's still good and all that.
Yeah. But like, you're right about, if this is the guy that's running this building, there's 100% chance he's, kind of behind the rich people staying there. It's almost like a ploy, right? Like, he's helping Red Mask.
He might have never went theatrical like Joker, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not just as psychotic. I will say, like, I have mixed feelings on this. Like, the idea of him seeing a regular person and sort of still being able to tell that this is actually just this universe, like, this is who the Joker is, but without becoming the Joker. I kind of like that idea, but I also don't like the idea of, like, hinting at who the Joker really is, like his name and stuff like that. Now, maybe this is just an alias this guy's taken in this world. It's not really his name or anything like that. But, it is treading on some territory that I don't particularly like. And this is something that John's also recently kind of messed with his Flashpoint Beyond. Maybe contradictions to that are the best thing for it, just so that it muddies the waters and makes it all a bit more like, oh, any one of these could be true, so therefore it's a mystery again. But also Punchline's venomed out. She comes out to punch Bruce. Yeah,
that was a little bit weird of a thing too, right? Like, just like, it almost felt like he was just picking characters to venomize, right? Like here, because I don't know, Punchline still finding her way to work with the Joker, or does she work for Red Mask? I read this early in the week.
I mean, well, Bruce just assumes it's Joker. There's no confirmation on anything else.
Right. So yeah, her still doing that. It's a little bit weird, but yeah, it didn't stop me from getting through the book or anything like that though.
Yeah, and then Croc shows up as well. And
throws Bruce out a window.
Although Bruce, he
fell from the moon, Pete. So this is nothing.
No, Matt, you're skipping over like several pages here. He didn't put Bruce out the window. Bruce puts Croc out the window.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He puts Croc out the window, and then Bruce has the moment where he sees Alfred, and that sort of makes him pause. And then Selena and Punchline keep beating him up, and he gets shot by some stooge, whoever that is, in the shoulder. That makes him go out the window, and he hangs on with a rope or whatever it is.
Right.
And then he ends up falling to the building across the street, and we get the I can survive this because I've fallen from the moon, so this is no problem. So two things here. One is the absurdity of him being able to survive this in the first place is eye-rolly, right?
Yeah.
I think the fact that he directly references the even worse example that we did not like from before to justify it just annoyed me more.
Yeah, for sure. Because him falling to the next level and it's like 3 stories or whatever, I can buy that. But him going to the whole next building, like, I don't know, him dropping a couple,
like the panel does not make it look like it's a small jump.
No,
this looks like he's fallen a considerable amount of.
Yeah, and there's nothing really to break his fall like you see in like old cartoons or old movies, like him falling through like shade structures or whatever. The
skylight.
It's a straight drop.
The skylight breaks his fall.
Yeah, but like,
it's just, I think clearly what's become clear is that one of the things I clearly disagree with Zdarsky on is just this way of like Batman just surviving all this shit, and it's not. My problem with it is that I think limitations on characters are good, and this is obviously a very widespread limitation that all human beings are supposed to have, is that they can only like survive certain things and whatnot. And I think it's very important for other characters that have superpowers to have clear rules about what those superpowers are, what they can do, and what the limitations of them are. And I think having him just survive things that he shouldn't, and it just feels a bit because Batman-like, just feels like, well, I can't reasonably expect that he can't just get out of a situation at any point because I've seen him just do it before. So there's no so it makes it hard for me to accept the threat of something else in the future because I feel like he's just cheated his way out. And not the characters cheated his way out, but the writings cheated him out of situations. So it makes future threats feel less like impactful. It makes me feel they're less threatening.
Yeah, and I just expect more from Zdarsky because him in the night, like there was never impossible situations. There was tough situations that he got into. Some of the stuff with like the cat thieves in Paris and and the stuff with Ra's al Ghul towards the end, but nothing that was ever like impossible, like falling from the moon. So it's like I expect more from Zdarsky in his writing to not write himself into these type things. So to see it and then for him to reference it again too, which, let's be real, I probably would have just forgotten about it because I read so many comics about him falling from space, but then he reminded me in this issue. And that was only like, 2 issues ago that he did that?
Yeah, it was like the second last issue of the last arc, so maybe 3 issues ago.
Yeah.
It's so weird though, because like I feel like they don't really have to change anything other than just have the art make it more clear that it's like a more believable drop. But everything about the art makes it look like he's falling for ages, and then he's diving, and then obviously the narration box referencing the moonfall. It's just kind of like, whatever. I will say though, the last couple of pages I like though, because he stumbles out of the building and he sees like the corrupt cops like harassing someone, beating someone up in an alley, and he chooses to intervene. Very heroic thing to do, obviously. But the big thing here in the narration is that this city's terrified, but it's the wrong people who are terrified. It's not, regular people, innocent people are terrified, and the people in power are the ones like dishing out the fear. So this is kind of what inspires him to be like, you know what? No, like the fear dynamic in this version of Gotham is wrong, and it may not be my Gotham, but it's still a Gotham. So yes, Gotham, I shall become a bat. Like the last couple pages I thought were good. This is almost like a flip of like some of the other issues from the past arc where I liked most of the issue, and then the cliffhanger at the end was like, oh, I don't know about that. This was kind of the opposite, where there was a lot of stuff in the middle where I'm like, I don't know if I really like this that much. I'm not sure. There's good points, there's bad points to it. And then it got to the last couple pages and I was like, I like that. I like this moment.
Yeah, well, I also like too that he stands up for these, even though he's just taking this fall, right? But he still sticks up for these people to fight these cops, and then he like almost like passes out, right? Because he's laying down there in the alley too, right? If I'm remembering things right.
Oh yeah, after he's done fighting the cop, he's on the
and like he just passes out, and it's like he's gonna give it his all, no matter what, because he doesn't know how to do anything else. So
and it's almost like Skeleton Gordon who fades away as he's passing out, and he tells him to strike fear. So it's almost like he's become his father in this, like, for this version of Gotham. Like, he's the one giving him the...
inspiring him.
Yeah. So it's almost like Skeleton Gordon represents Gotham itself, rather than, you know, a father figure, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the ending. I like thematically, like, those elements of it. I am intrigued by him interacting with this Alfred and what that's going to mean to him. It's a little watered down because we just had him interact with an Alfred in Batman versus Robin, so they're maybe milking that a little bit too much, too close together. But potentially there is some interesting things there, that we have this alternate universe version of Alfred. And, you know, and I like science fiction, and one of my favorite things about alternate universe stories in science fiction is the idea of exploring something with a character who was already gone, but you get to sort of like examine the differences and kind of reaffirm some of the core qualities to our main character by how they respond to another version of this character. Like, there's definitely things you can do with that I think there's potential here for. The number of characters that are in the story, though, that are being referenced, they need to have a Joker, they need to have you know, Harvey. We've got this mysterious red mask. There's maybe just a little too much going on and too many characters that we're shuffling, that it just kind of feels like we want to reference a lot of characters rather than there's some key 2 or 3 important ones that we're really going to focus on and make a big deal out of. So that would be my other thing with this.
I almost felt like it was too early to reference the Joker, because I wouldn't mind them like putting that off for a little bit, you know? Instead of giving us that direct comparison. To where, like, Bruce hears him laugh or whatever in another meeting. I was like, that's oddly familiar, you know, because he's more focused on, you know, Dent at that point, let's say.
Sure, yeah.
But, you know, like, I don't mind Croc showing up, because I always like Croc as a muscle type figure. So, you know, certain of these characters popping up, it's, you know, just in their typical roles, I think it's fine.
Yeah. My other kind of mark against the issue is that I wasn't that into the art for the most part. I don't really like the faces, particularly the mouths on the faces. I was finding myself kind of, there's a lot of kind of like just sort of upper pouting sort of going on. I can't really, I was trying to do it for the video version of the podcast, but for you know, there's a lot of scenes where the way like the lips are sort of pointing up the way just kind of looked a bit weird to me. Everything's maybe a little, I don't want to say too clean, because I like plenty of clean art, but it's clean in a way that I don't like. Yeah. And maybe that's more down to the colouring than the line work itself, but the end result is one that I'm kind of just very lukewarm on. It's kind of like a very middling comic for art for me. The layouts themselves are fine. There's nothing wrong with the layouts, and I think Skeleton Gordon does look quite good. But all of the regular people, I don't like how they look.
Yeah, so Skeleton Gordon's overly cartoony. So and he doesn't have lips.
He doesn't have lips. That's he's
a skeleton.
He's a skull with a mustache.
Yeah.
He inherently looks good because of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be my other thing. So yeah, I mean, we'll get to the ratings in a bit. We've got the backup to mention, which is that Tim has figured out that this Toyman's gun that was used, Toyman was actually sending people to another universe before. And he suspects that this gun sent Batman somewhere, so maybe he can go and find him. He gets the help of Mr. Terrific to basically... And most of this backup, really, honestly, is just like explaining stuff so that we understand where Tim is going and why he's doing it.
Yes.
And that's all it really is. He has a quiet moment with Bernard, his current boyfriend, before he goes. But ultimately, it's all just set up for Tim traversing the multiverse looking for Bruce. And the swerve here is that he doesn't go where Bruce is. He goes to the universe that Toyman was sending people to, and it was basically just Toyman's own little toy box universe, or at least a place in another universe that he's made his little town.
He's used his toy box, and that thing in the last issue we saw when he shot himself with the gun, it was to send himself there.
Yeah, it wasn't suicide. It was sending himself.
So he'd be the Overlord and stuff, which I'm just like, so when the Toyman's gun would swapping people, it was swapping them with toy versions of themselves, right? So in theory, there should have been a toy version of Batman that showed up when he got shot with this somewhere, right?
Maybe that was only if Toyman himself was using
in charge of it. Okay,
I don't know.
So this is just more like a multiversal gun that
Yeah,
You
because
don't know where
it
you're
was
gonna end up.
Failsafe who used it on Batman.
Right.
So
So
I suspect that was more
it's
just
just weird.
Toyman covering his tracks to make it look like people were dead.
Gotcha.
I don't know, something like
Yeah, it's a weird choice for sure. It's a weird choice.
that. This was a weird choice because I appreciated the backup in the last issue a bit more because it felt like, okay, we're doing this other Earth stuff. Seeing Tim in the regular universe investigate it is like, okay, this is a tether to the real world. It's a tether to what's going on with the other characters. Here it kind of dropped that because now Tim's also going around the universe or around the multiverse.
Multiversal quest.
Yeah, and instead of like him getting close to anything, it seems like it's now going to be a story with him dealing with Toyman in Toyman's own little bubble.
Yeah.
Which makes it feel less relevant because before it felt very relevant to what's going on, and now it feels like it's splintered off into its own thing.
Because it was Tim dealing with the death of his mentor or perceived death of his mentor, you know, and that can't be true. We got to figure all this out. You know, I'll find a way. There's a way. He's Batman.
Yeah.
You know, and that here it was just more like, oh, Toyman, device, multiverse, cool. So I will give it credit. It read super fast. So
sure,
did not bog me down. So cut it where that's due. And I like the art in the backup a little bit more than the main, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it hits that stylized Toyman. You know, those dolls look super creepy. You know, the dead eyes work there. So, who was the art there? Because it was Zdarsky.
It was Miguel Madoncha.
Madoncha. Well, there we go. I like Madoncha's art. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I it was okay, but it definitely felt like it was pivoting away and just into its own little thing, and that was kind of not what I wanted from the backup, because the last one it was like, oh, this is my tether back to the real Gotham to see what's going on and all the rest of it, and now I'm sure it'll tie in a little bit by the end, but it kind of feels like the next issue is just going to be Tim like, oh shit, I'm in Toyman's world and I'm running from all these puppets and whatnot. I'm going to have to deal with this. It feels like it's just like a side quest for the purpose of having a side quest now, as opposed to being integral to what's going on with Batman in the main plot, and that's a little disappointing to me, I think. So yeah, so I'm kind of lukewarm in the issue, even though I do really like the end of the main story and I like some of the themes that are coming up. I think I'm a little lukewarm on it as a whole, and certainly this arc as a whole, because I felt kind of, not too dissimilar last issue. But what are you giving Batman 132?
So I'll give the front part a 6.5. I'll give the backup a 7.5 for a total of 7.
I think I will just give the whole thing a 6.5. I think that's as high as I'm willing to go.
Yeah.
So this arc's feeling a little bit like, okay, we have to get to this arc to get to the next arc, because I know Zdarsky can do well, and I feel like this is just, there's too many things in this one that it's just not the all-timer. Sadly, I think Zdarsky, from what I've read of it, I think his Daredevil's better, like much better.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
I read the first 2 trades are very solid of Daredevil, so yeah,
I think I read the first 3, so so far I'd say that's a much better series from him, but we'll see where it goes as the arc progresses. All right, The Flash 792, Jeremy Adams writing with Roger Cruz on the art. So this is the next part of the 1 Minute War, and we get some practical kind of follow-ups to what's going on. The characters are trying to figure out what their plan should be. The bulk of the issue focuses on Wallace and Bart, because Bart runs off half-cocked to try and because the adults mention briefly that, we need to get some of their like tech to see how it works with the Speed Force.
Yeah, and we can't. And Jay's like, we can't get in because the door closes so quick, even for us. So, which leads Bart to have an idea to live up to his name of Impulse, which I love. Every time he mentions that, I do love that he's like, I don't think things through. What do you expect? And I like the dynamic between him and Wallace, right? Where Wallace he's still young, but he's not impulsive, right? He has better control over his actions and thoughts than Bart does. So it makes them feel distinct, and they're not just, 2 Kid Flash-esque characters, right? They're both unique in their own way, and it showcases how that is by having them interact, which I love. I would read a mini series of these 2, just teaming up for nonsense,
Oh, sure.
based off of this one alone. And again, it shows that Jeremy Adams has a very great grasp on these characters across the board, not just Wally and Barry and all of them, but down the whole line of the family.
Yeah, so obviously there's a bit of aftermath to Iris's death, which the characters are all really somber about. But they start talking about all this stuff, which leads to the kids racing off. Well, it leads to Bart racing off, and Wallace goes over to catch him and try to get him to come back, but that doesn't obviously work out for him. And we get that the what's his name? The Admiral is like pissed that no one's caught the organics. He wants them all dead now. He's getting pissed. So it said all this stuff. We see what was her name? Mistress Death?
Miss Murder.
Miss Murder, that was it.
Which I could tell you who she is now. Definitely a dark multiverse Miss Martian.
Yeah.
They keep calling her a hunter. She doesn't, smell or sight. It's all your thoughts, and that's how she catches you.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see where you're getting that from now. Okay.
So she's definitely a telepath of that, right? And so and I like her being there for that, and it shows that they've been to the dark multiverse, as one of their places, and they picked her up, because that's how messed up the Fraction are, is they saw one of these dark versions from the dark multiverse and were like, hey, we can use her.
Yeah. The rest of the Flash family go to Mr. Terrific's lab. Wally gets them in, and they're going to work from there. Mainly because they think it'll be safe from everything. Meanwhile, we get Bart and Wallace sneaking around the spire. It's very Death Star. It's very the original Star Wars, with them sneaking around and avoiding the guards and looking for what they find is a power supply, which their plan is to just take out. So of course the entire thing starts to run out of juice, and they're like, wait, why is their battery gone? And very quickly they end up getting attacked, and the battery cracks open, and it turns out there's a person in there. We get
one of the conduit.
We get a kid in there who they race off with. They take him with them, and they steal one of the tank things. They get around what's her name again? Miss Murder?
Miss Murder.
I keep wanting to say Mrs. Death. It's so close.
Yeah. It helps me too that there's an AFI song called Miss Murder, so it's ingrained in my brain.
But anyway, so she's chasing them, and they're basically getting their asses handed to them. But when they realize that she can tell what they think, because the guy that was in the battery that's kind of weak and they're kind of carrying, he knows some stuff, and he's like, no, she uses her thoughts. You can't use that. He knows how the place works, and they're like, oh shit, well, let's just not think then. And Bart's like, see, I'm impulsive. This is where it's going to come in handy.
This is perfect.
Just act, don't think. Yeah, so that's how they get away. They steal one of the tank things and race off. And it's a fun sequence, Miss Murder jumps on top of it. They skid around. It's a good bit of action. It feels like the kids are getting one over on the villains, which is kind of nice at this point in the story. Especially since, if we're dealing with the sadness of Iris seemingly having died, having this more lighter part of the story to sort of lift us up again is kind of a nice counterbalance to that.
And not just that, too. This issue's full of them, too, because I got a chuckle out of them putting Mr. Terrific's eye up to the scanner so they can get into the lab.
Yeah.
That gave me a chuckle too, that they brought him along so they can get in, and he's the key. So, but yeah, Adams is balancing the sorrow with the comedy here pretty well.
Yeah, so they race back to the house with the tank thing, and they get out. Obviously, some of the adults there, I think Max Mercury and Wally are there, and they're kind of like, "Hey, you shouldn't have ran off and done that." And they're like, no, hey, we got this kid. We are here. We found one of some of their tech. You can examine it now. And then they're like, but there's a storage part in the back of this. It's like a truck kind of thing. And they're like, oh, what's in the back? And they open it. And the cliffhanger of this issue is that in the back we have Superman, Grodd, and who was the third character? There was
Captain Atom.
Captain Atom. And they're, I wouldn't say frozen per se, because they're not frozen, but they're, because obviously time's moving so fast, they're basically just still. So the Fraction have been kidnapping powerful people. well, Grodd's not people, but you know what I mean, powerful beings from around Earth. And I like this because one of the things that I liked about this premise, but we talked about maybe in the first issue, is one of the things that I loved about this as an idea for a Flash story is that it's this cataclysmic thing where the entire world's in jeopardy, but because only the speedsters are aware of it and can comprehend what's going on, and all of the other heroes are all just effectively frozen in time, it means that they're the only ones that can deal with it, and that makes it such a specific to this family of characters to do it. So this coming in here, it kind of feel like, oh, we're acknowledging that these other heroes are still around, but they're all just they're all basically vulnerable. They're all just waiting there to be picked off by these villains if they want them.
Which tells me too that they've also done homework, because those are all three really powerful.
Oh yeah.
Powerhouses of characters.
And it makes you wonder who else is in some of those other trucks and like containment cells. Yeah. Like they've got a lot of things. Sure. And the other question, I suppose, is who is this kid? I assume he's a speedster from another universe.
Which, as we've seen, and with Adam's other stuff, he'd hinted about this with the Mad Max Flash stuff. So I'm sure it's from one of those ones that we've seen, and we'll be shocked. In a good way, not a bad way.
Although we know that their connection to the Speed Force is like kind of their tech that started all this in the first place. Like, is this someone from their own planet that they developed this from? So it has like a dark start now?
He's an organic conduit. That's why he was in the battery cell. So
that's right.
Which cracks me up, because the way that they broke it open is Bart didn't have any other plan besides ram the guards with the battery. And that's where it broke up, and they found out he was in there. So he's definitely a speedster from somewhere.
Well, this explains why they want to collect organics then, because they can use them as power sources with their Speed Force connection. Right. That makes some sense. So
well, and I don't know if this is where Adam's going to go, because in the New 52, Grodd had a connection to the Speed Force, right? That was one of his things to when he became the king of Gorilla City. So I'm wondering if that's in there. Also, Superman lightly touches the Speed Force. They've talked in like Johns' run. That's where some of his super speed comes from.
I mean, that's a bit of a stretch for me, just because it was postured in one run briefly. I don't think anyone remembers that or talks about it.
I remember it, but I'm also Superman and Flash fan. So
the fact that Superman and Captain Atom are also there would make me think they're not going to bring up Grodd's connection to the Speed Force. But
yeah, probably not. But and then with Captain Atom too, because he's quantum powered, and if comics have taught me anything, quantum and speed stuff go together. So there's definitely a reason why all three of them were put into the same place by the Fraction. I just don't know what that reason is yet.
Well, I feel like that you're assuming it's just those three, whereas I'm assuming there's a lot more, and this is just the three that are in this containment.
Right, but those three in general together, right? Like, that tells me there's some form of plan from the Fraction that they put these three together, even if they're collecting others, because you would assume that, I don't know where Captain Atom is, but Superman is in Metropolis, and then you'd think that Grodd's either on the run somewhere or in Gorilla City, So why were they bringing them all back to there? I don't necessarily think it's to be a conduit, or just to remove them from the board.
Well, I think everyone they're kidnapping is coming back to there. I don't think that's specific to these three. Because I'm assuming they're kidnapping more. I don't necessarily think there's a connection between these three that wouldn't also be shared by other examples they may have kidnapped. There's maybe a reason why Adams has picked these three, because he wants to use them in the story later.
Right.
But
I'm just trying to...
don't get me wrong. It could be the all energy based. It could be the Superman's supercharged from the sun, Captain Atom's quantum energy and whatever, and then Grodd telepathic energy. Whatever. Yeah, maybe it's all energy based, and that's all fine. But I don't really care so much about why anyway. Like, I mean, that's like a plot thing they'll get to, whatever.
For me, it's curious.
For me, it's more interesting just because of how it connects back to this idea that all of these other powerful characters are just completely useless in this situation, and the Flash characters now have other people they have to save. They have like all these other heroes they have to try and hold, because not only they might be able to beat the Fraction back, but what if they still have some of these heroes in their like control or in their cells when they leave? Like, they have to make sure they get everyone out. Basically, they have to free everyone before they. But otherwise it's not
blow it up.
Otherwise, it's not a victory. Like, if they get away with like half of Earth's like superheroes, then shit. Like, they've kidnapped, cold snap's been taken by the by the fraction, and he's on another Earth.
Yeah.
I mean,
or it could be one of these things where they're trying to, reverse their, not reverse the technology or whatever, but how can they use these type for their own gain? Like you were talking about their power source. Like what can they learn from Superman's physiology of, pulling energy from the sun or whatever. So, but really, really good stuff. I just thoroughly enjoying this 1 Minute War. It's a fun little gimmick. And the Bart and Wallace together is something that I thoroughly enjoy through 2 issues at this point. So I want more of that.
It was a nice light story to counteract the heaviness of where the story had left off from last main issue. And even to an extent the special, which obviously went into really murderous territory. And it did have me thinking throughout the issue, I'm like, oh, when's Godspeed gonna pop up?
Me too.
So
yeah,
looking out for that going forward. I suspect it's going to be a thing where he ends up kind of like helping the heroes, not because he wants to, but kind of in that, because like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. I can see him like distracting the villains by like stabbing a bunch of them whilst the Flash family are trying to stop everything,
I definitely feel like he's the counter to Miss Murder.
Oh yeah,
that's what I think. So
there's something there to that. There's something there. Now, interesting, yeah. No, enjoying the arc a lot. It's definitely the biggest, best arc that this Flash run's had, and is been consistently enjoyable so far. So, what are you rating the Flash 792? And I suppose mention the art because we haven't really talked about that.
Oh yeah, no. So Roger Cruz is definitely who's doing the art in the ones before. I'm terrible.
Oh, I think it's been different every issue. This art.
Yeah. So I'll say Roger Cruz is serviceable enough. Like he's not my favorite, but I also am not like bothered that it's his art. So I think he draws the speed stuff really well.
Actually, it may have been Cruz in the first issue, and then it switched to someone else in the second issue, and this is back to him, which would make sense because it's twice a month just now. So
twice a month, right? So yeah, again, it's not my favorite, but it's definitely not bad. It's stylistically. There's some manga influences in there that I can tell.
There's definitely some angular things at times. I think it works well on the kid characters, but I will say that everyone looks a bit young. Like Barry and Wally both look like they're teenagers. Yeah. So I think that's something to mention.
So
yeah, I do miss Pasarin, because Pasarin on the regular issues before this event started, or before this arc started, I really liked the work on that. And maybe this is the right ideas to like do this like arc with others and then have him come back for the next regular story. But yeah, so all right, what are you rating Flash?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Yeah, I'll just go straight 8, I think, but it's a really enjoyable issue. I'm digging Flash a lot right now, which is good. All right, Poison Ivy issue 9, WIllow Wilson and it's Takara, isn't it?
Takara. Yep.
Yeah, I've not changed that name. Whatever I replaced that was on this list before, I had a completely different artist written down, but I knew it was wrong. On you go.
It's Takara. So this issue is you can definitely tell that it's not quite a placeholder, but Ivy has just saved the one lady with her cancer, and they're living in Seattle together. And Ivy's starting to have some doubts about this mission because they've moved to a part of Seattle that is still very entrenched in like Earth and the plants. And she's just like, yeah, this is kind of living in harmony. It should be like this. And then there's a knock at the door, and it's none other than Pam's girlfriend, Harley. And there's a lot of love and affection throughout this book, that these two have missed each other. And we find out that a lot of the narration that Pam had been writing were letters to Harley, because Harley mentions that, she could tell how she was feeling in the letters that she had sent back to Gotham. And so they get together, and, it's what couples do after they've been apart for a while. They immediately hit the bedroom and slam the door on her roommate. And as they're laying in bed together, Pam starts worrying about the Lamia, because she's like, I gotta constantly keep this in check. I've been using this to basically touch into my powers because I've lost them since I was Queen Ivy, and Harley's like, well, I want to know what this is like. Can you infect me? You can control the infections. Like you beat Woodrue, and Ivy's like, I don't know, maybe it's not the smartest thing, but Harley's like, when have I ever done what's the smartest thing? And this is all wonderfully drawn by Takara. Like the layouts here, there's not a lot of space between Harley and Ivy, which is really nice because it's really playing into their body language and their closeness and all of that type of stuff. So Ivy hits her with a little dose of the spores, and she essentially starts like she's tripping on mushrooms. She starts seeing all the colors and all of the the different shapes and stuff that anytime Ivy is fully given in that we've seen. Um, and Harley's like, yeah, I like this. I want to do this more. So they go out into Seattle while Harley's kind of rolling on this psychedelic, and she realizes that it's Ivy is now through this infection with the fungus is allowing other people to see what their green is like, and it's almost like unlocking this empathy because as Harley's experiencing the stuff, they're going around Seattle, and she is seeing almost like Seattle from the beginning of time. So she's seeing the plants and like all the other creatures. So as they're like in this downtown area with this, so Seattle has one of those big like London Eye um, Ferris wheels over off of a pier. And while they're by this one, she looks down the street and she sees like this big, huge tree with like surrounded by mastodons. And she's like, yeah, I saw everything that used to be here. It's like not breaking her brain, but definitely forcing her into a different perspective. Um, and Ivy is just like, well, yeah, this like the delirium doesn't scare you. This is kind of always who you've been. You're okay with these kind of battling thoughts and struggles. And so her trip ends basically, and they're walking through like famous landmarks through Seattle, and they get to talking about Ivy's whole mission, and she's like, well, Harley tells Pam, you're not this like queen bad guy. Like I know you think you are because that's what you've tried to convince everybody, but there's a good person in there still. If not, I wouldn't be here. And and she's like, well, no, but, I'm only like this because of the parasite. Like, this is not me. Like, I had all the evil intentions. This is the parasite doing this. And she goes, no, I don't think so because I followed your trail here to Seattle and there's more stuff. So she pulls out her phone and there's a little funny scene where she keeps pulling stuff out of her pockets, very Looney Tune style. There's like a rubber duck and like a mini like judge's mallet, right? Before she finally gets to her phone where she shows her, the the garden that Ivy helped plant a couple issues ago, right after the Woodrue stuff, is become like a full-on botanical garden. There's those giant trees, and the picture that Harley shows her is with the lady that was working there, and she's like, yeah, you completely changed the biogenetic stuff in that area, so you are still in touch with the green. It's just different. And Harley uses her psychiatry side to be like, yeah, I think like something happened when you were Queen Ivy and you feel neutered. Like you feel like something was taken from you and this is all just a mental block. And Harley offers Ivy to come back to Gotham with her. And they start kissing in the rain, and Ivy's like, no, I can't. I have to stay here. And they hug on their way back, and or as Harley's leaving, they hug, and she goes, but once you're done doing whatever you're doing, come back to me, please. And this is one of the lines that stuck really well with me, and that's why I like Wilson as a writer, because she says, Ivy tells Harley, a bird may love a fish, but where would they live? And Harley just looks back over her and is like, no, the answer's silly. It's penguins, and penguins love Gotham, right? So they look, and that's where it ends. Is Pam standing in the doorway watching Harley as she leaves, and she says, "Yep, as soon as I'm done, she tells Janet, her roommate, start packing. We've got work to do, and that her destination is towards Harley. So, really enjoyed this issue. For someone that was such anti Harley Quinn as much as I have, these current crop of writers that have used her to varying degrees, whether it's been Tynan or Taylor, or I'm trying to think who else has done stuff with Harley that's not just Sejic. I feel like when she's almost like a seasoning that if you get too much of her, it kind of ruins the meal, but the right amount really elevates it. And of course, you can't really have a proper Ivy story without Harley at this point. They're so entwined. So yeah, just seeing that she, brings out the best in Pam, and that Pam was all full of self-doubt until she had talked with her, her main squeeze, was just a really nice sentimental issue. And again, this is in that weird zone where we didn't know if it was an ongoing or anything. So it's kind of like Wilson just trying to get out all of her Harley and Ivy stuff in this one issue. And I think she does it really well. And then just the art too. This is definitely up for art of the week for me, because just the way that Takara draws all of these characters, and again the breakdowns and how close they're constantly standing, and the body language between them. It's just really nice, and their colors bounce well off of each other because Harley's all in the black and red, and then you have Pam in the green with her red hair, and they weirdly complement each other in that way. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this issue. Glad to have Takara back on art. I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Okay, cool. Gotham City, Year 1, Issue 5, Tom King writing with Phil Hester on the art. Obviously, we had the cliffhanger last time of implicating Richard Wayne and everything that was going on, and this issue, of course, was tasked with explaining that. And so Queenie is the name of the girl here who gave Slam the letter, was kind of involved, has been looked for by the police and all that. So it turns out that Richard started an affair with her. She was working at a hotel, and he ended up seeing her, and they started this affair. He got her the gig at the nightclub that she wanted, and then ultimately wanted to use her in a ploy to steal his own baby to get ransom money that he could then use to divorce his wife, because his wife is, legally owns everything he does and has half of it and all the rest of it.
He's that guy in the family that is terrible with money, but he's the heir. And so Constance, his wife, is the one that keeps all control of it. So according to Queenie, this was his ploy to get that money. And it seems like his daughter got caught up in the crossfire.
Well, she only knows that it was to she's under the impression that it was to get money so that he could divorce her, right? It's not until later it becomes clear that no, he had no interest in marrying Queenie and leaving his wife. He just wanted to get the money so that he could keep gambling and getting prostitutes and whatever else he does with all this money that he throws away.
So real quick, I'm watching Always Sunny, and I'm through. I'm in where they've introduced Frank, and and Wayne is very much a Frank character here, with the boozing and the gambling and the whoring. I could not help but think that reading this week.
Oh, very good. Very good. So yeah, and we also get the context for how Slam's guy that he sent after her, that that day he got him to go follow her, and he turned up dead. We get the context of that, which is that he saw and even took some photos of her with Wayne and tried to blackmail her. And then Wayne really was the one that killed him. Yeah. But she didn't realize that it was going to be a violent thing. She thought they were going to pay him off or something. Yeah. But it was Wayne that killed him in the rain that night. So
kept shooting. He unloaded the whole clip into him. I also like that Slam gets into how they met. As him and this guy, he knew about him when he was on the force, and then when he left the force because of the stuff that he had done, the blow up and whatever. He knew to be a PI, he needed some of these lower scumbag types, and this was his best guy. So they ended up becoming kind of partners, and he kind of does feel responsible for the reason that he got killed. Although it does seem to me, as a impartial person, that this guy was going to scumbag no matter what, So Slam shouldn't feel too bad.
Kind of seems that way. Well, he says he felt nothing when he found out he died.
Oh, is that what it is?
He says that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Direct quote.
There you go.
And you get this great page where Wayne and Queenie kissed in the rain after he died.
Mhm.
Almost like Wayne was like proud of himself in that
Relishing
moment.
in it.
Yeah.
He had to be a tough guy finally, which again, a lot revealed about Wayne here, right? For someone that said that he hated smoking, according to his wife, right? He's smoking and drinking this entire time, so he's definitely they're definitely playing with perspectives here. King is definitely working us here.
Yeah, and then obviously we get the night where Queenie got the money, and then the baby didn't turn up, and then eventually was found in the back garden of her uncle's house. She's been set up here. She thought the baby was fine. She was going to drop it off at a hospital, but then it was gone, and she didn't think anything of it. She assumed Wayne had someone else pick her up. Sorry, and then it turned out where it showed up. And it's like, okay, so no one's going to believe me now. Now I've been framed, and this seems to be like, we have to figure this out. And Slam wants to figure it out because they both feel that they've been screwed by, these people. In fact, Slam even asks, like, why did you pick me? And she's like, you were the first one in the phone book. Your name was first because of Bradley.
Alphabetical.
Yeah.
And also it's up against this. I'm trying to find the right word because it's not a ticking clock, but there's riots going on in the South Side now at the death of Helena Wayne.
Yeah,
right?
it's background throughout the issue that because of what's happened, the city's starting to erupt, and there's like fires, there's looting, just general chaos is happening, and that's kind of this backdrop. You hear it on the radio in the car at one point. You see it towards the end of the issue. So it's doing all this. Slam takes Queenie to his mother, the fortune teller, who was introduced before. And she tries to read her, and basically says that if it turns out you're lying, like Slam will shoot you at the end of this. Then she basically can't take all these readings that are given to her. It's kind of, the readings are saying, you're the fool, you were frightened, you've been used, you've given up on your own worth, and you're looking for something larger. It basically hits her with all these sort of criticisms, and she starts crying. It's kind of like she feels attacked almost, and she flips the table and doesn't finish and runs out. And then that's when we see some of the rioting. And these are gorgeous pages as well.
Hester is killing it here because it feels like a pressure cooker, for sure.
Yeah, it's all the origins and yellows of the fire and the car lights and all that. Everything's really harsh and kind of. And then it contrasts immediately when you go to it's like a hotel room or whatever it is.
It's all cool, like the cooler colors, the blues and the purples mixed in there. Yeah, I really love that tarot scene because it was super harrowing when you see that Slam has a gun pointed to the back of her head, and when the mom's like, and if we, he deems that you're not telling the truth, that's it. And it was just like, man, I was at the edge of my seat reading this. And when she has that breakdown. To me, I read it as that's how they told her that she was telling the truth. Is that she had such a breakdown of I can't do this. I got used. They know that it wasn't her that was on the hook for all of this, and that she has to be telling at least what she thinks is the truth.
Yeah. Because obviously there's another reveal by the end here, but the Slam goes to the old friend that was working for the Waynes, the security guy. He goes to his house and drags him out of bed, throws him out his window, and demands to know, like, because he assumes, like, hey, you must have been the one that did this. You must have gotten the baby at Wayne's behest and did what you did. This was you. And he throws him on, like, out the window onto his car roof, and then he gets into his car and drives down the street with this guy on the roof of the car, and then hits the brakes so he goes flying off. So this is probably the most action-packed scene that we've had in this entire series, to be honest. But it was very good.
The line that got me from Slam was he threw him onto the roof of his car, and he goes, and I had to duck because of the dent that he made in it. That is some hard-boiled pulp, detective stuff. I was like, oh man, King, you're killing it here. And then just the way that Hester draws it too, like you say, and all the action pack. The only other scene that comes to mind was when Slam goes to get the baby in the last issue, and he has that fight with the guy with the gun, with the shotgun. That was another really fun.
Oh,
action
sure,
scene.
yeah, you're right.
But
Right.
nothing like this. This is upper levels. This cranks that up even more.
Yeah. Also have to acknowledge the sound effect is the word slam at the when he throws him off the roof.
On the brakes.
But yeah, so he's asking all these questions about like, so you must have done this. You must have been the guy who did this for Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out that no, he doesn't work for Wayne. He works for Constance.
Mm-hmm.
They were hired to kind of keep Wayne in line to make sure he doesn't go out and like spend all the money and make sure, because he owes bad people money as well because he's borrowed money, and it's to protect him from those bad people coming for him. And it's like, yeah, we work for the wife. And then the end of the issue is Slam on his way to Wayne Manor, and the city's kind of burning behind him as he drives into Wayne Manor. And then
past the gates. It's almost like he's going into the gates of hell himself.
Yeah, the last panel actually shows the manor itself being on fire. It obviously isn't literal, but that's kind of what it feels like. But it's kind of like Constance found out, and then seemingly, and maybe there'll be a swerve here, but the inkling at the end of this issue is that Richard Wayne staged this kidnapping of his own daughter to extort money from his wife so that he could just have money to do what he wants. And the wife seemingly has found out about that / the affair and has made the choice herself to murder, because it mentions that the security guard says, no, we were at the manor, but like and Slam says, but was Mrs. Wynn there? And he's like, well, she was there, but she kind of went to bed early and was gone for like, or no, she went out for a drive. Sorry, she went out for a drive, and she was gone for a few hours. And it's like, that kind of sounds like she might did the deed.
I just come to why would she? Was it anger? Was it, I don't understand a mother killing her own kid that way, of collateral in this. So I'm expecting a swerve, but if there's not one, then I'm curious how King.
The only thing I'm thinking is like there must be one of them ends up seeming like a good person to have Thomas Wayne later, because both of them right now feel like awful. They're terrible human beings. Yeah. So
with Constance, so it's almost with her. I just felt like there were femme fatale vibes, but not like that. Not like she's the grand villain. With Thomas, though, it always felt like there was someone else pulling his strings, and I still feel like that's where we're going. There's still been too many owls. I feel like that's who he's indebted to. I feel that there's going, maybe not a Talon, but definitely a representative of the court of owls at play here.
Well, we're getting into the last issue, so we're going to get answers next issue, no matter what.
And I definitely feel like, again, if it's Constance and that she's pregnant, with baby number 2, and we'll see how that goes. And maybe that is, maybe Richard does survive it, and that's his come to Jesus type moment. And, I don't know. He seems pretty irreprehensible in this issue for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you get yourself out of that one, but I'm curious to see where this goes, man. This book has been so good.
Yeah. Yeah, they both seem like such villains at this point that I'm curious to see how this wraps up with the idea that there's maybe hope for the Waynes going forward. But the art here is great. That page of them kissing in the rain was fantastic. The ending with driving into the the gates of hell, as it were.
Yeah.
All that stuff looked fantastic. The coloring, between the riot pages and the more calm, kind of cold, like conversation pages, the more black and white of the flashbacks, there's a lot of like jumping around in styles and coloring styles to like distinguish the scenes, and it all works really well. And it all came flooding back as soon as I started reading it, where we are, what the important parts of the story are, and all that sort of stuff. So, no, excellent. Looking forward to the final issue. Apparently, this isn't selling that well. Tom King, I think, said that on a podcast or something this past week, or an interview, maybe.
Well, we got one issue left. I'll definitely be pushing the trade when it comes out to people.
I'm sure the trade's probably going to do fine.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, maybe it's just not selling as well as these big 12-issue prestige books.
Yeah, I mean, it's got that crime book vibe too. So, it's a shame. So I feel like I'm definitely going to push this to like Tim when he asks for recommendations, you know.
I mean, I think he'd read it anyway, to be honest. But yeah.
I'm definitely gonna push this toward on that because of the, you know, once the trade hits. So, but yeah, no, thoroughly enjoying this.
No, it's good stuff. What you giving it, Matt?
I'm giving this one a 9.
I'll go 8.5. I'm not going to go quite onto the 9, but
the mood,
it's very good.
Everything about it had me, you know, for a comic to have me at the edge of my seat, you know, that's some good stuff.
All right. Monkey Prince, issue 11.
Mm-hmm.
Jean Luen Yang writing with Bernard Chang and Haining on the art. So this is just you, Matt. So take it away.
Yeah. So, Marcus meets the Monkey King finally, and we find out that in the backstory of his parents is that they were henchmen. Well, the daughter and his dad was a henchman for the Ultra Humanite when they were fighting the Justice League, and they were fighting the Justice League because Ultra Humanite found out that the Monkey King had been banished to the Phantom Zone. In that, you know, there was a Monkey Prince 0 that had come out and I went back and read, and so Darkseid had attacked. Apparently, when Darkseid had quote killed the Monkey King, he had really got sent to the Phantom Zone. So what Ultra Humanite wanted to do was to free the Monkey King and then use him, you know, as, you know, he's Ultra Humanite, he's going to do this. But the Justice League thwarted it, so the Monkey King didn't appear as much, or didn't get through the portal. So there's a running theme in this from Ultra Humanite and Marcus's dad that in order to get the Phantom Zone projector, it has to have a wider scope, right? The like, what's the part of the camera, Pete? That, not the viewfinder, but the actual part that judges how much light's being let in.
The aperture? Maybe
they're basically arguing over the aperture, that the aperture needs to be wider so they can pull him out more, because last time it was too narrow. And Marcus's dad is at the same point, is like, well, I don't know if unleashing a monkey god upon the earth a great idea, Ultra Humanite. But yeah, so Marcus ends up getting involved, and this is as the rains are starting to come down from the Lazarus event, and he tries to hit Ultra Humanite with his army of hair clones that he's learned to do, and it doesn't work as much as he wants it to. His dad hits his head on the Phantom Zone projector, and that ends up firing it up just enough that the Monkey King can come out. So, well, not that he can come out, that Marcus can get in. So he starts fighting. The Monkey King is like, how are you? There's no way you're my son. I don't have kids. The little clones start to attack the Monkey King, which then he takes personal. He's like, you're going to attack me with clones from your hair? That's my move. So he makes clones of himself, and they start to attack Marcus. He gets hit with the staff where it takes off his mask, and that's where the Monkey King's like, you know, you're not my son. Marcus brings up Shifu, and he goes, wait, Pigsy? Pigsy's still around, and he's a Shifu now, which apparently is a title, which I didn't realize. I thought it was just like his first name. That makes no sense. And so Monkey King does one of his little tricks where he looks into the hair, into the clones, so he could look at his... so he turns them into a full clone of Marcus, so he can look into his history. And we find out that 15 years ago in Metropolis, that this was the first time Ultra Humanite was trying to bring in the Monkey King. And when they'd opened the portal, all of these like meteorites had come down. And that's how Marcus's dad and mom ended up getting together, is that his dad saved mom from one of these things. Superman comes in and saves them both. And he's talking to them about like, look, I hope you don't mind me saving you, because you guys don't make the best choices because you're working for Gemini, but I'll ask the judge for leniency. And then Marcus's dad tries to hit Superman with some type of laser. Superman gets pulled away by Batman to go bring in the Ultra Humanite, and That's where you see Superman smash the Phantom Zone projector. Um, and as they are standing around, the parents around one of these meteors that almost hit them, there's a baby underneath it, and it's Marcus. Um, and they take him as the Justice League's bringing Ultra Humanite in, which now has led Marcus to have way more questions. And Marcus tries to get Monkey Prince out to, or Monkey King out to help him because he's like, Shaifu's been kidnapped. There's this whole thing. There's a magic storm. The devil Nezza's here. And Monkey King gets confused because Nezza was a friend. He wasn't an enemy. And he tries to recruit Monkey King, but he can't. Monkey King can't leave. So he tells him, go find the Sandalwood Buddha, who, if he had read the story in the Lazarus, what is it, Alpha with the Monkey Prince? That's the Buddha that the Monkey King was, escorting, where he met Nezza and Pigsy and all this from Journey to the West. And he'll figure out a way to get me out of here, but I can't leave just on my own. And he teaches Marcus how to fully do the clones. And so Marcus comes back through the portal. Ultra Humanite's there. He shoots him with this dart that Ultra Humanite claims now are nanobots that he'll control, so that, now you're under my control. Why don't you go hang out with your Cape friends and find out what you can about them? And so, that it ends with Marcus standing there, kind of defeated that, his grandpa is completely using him. So we got one issue left. They're teasing, the end is only the beginning, or the end of the beginning. I like that Yang is playing with the Monkey King stuff. From the stuff that I've read from Journey to the West, he's not such a cut and dry hero or villain. He's a very flawed character. And the fact that he's still banished to the Phantom Zone, he can't get out on his own. So it seems like it's more than just the Phantom Zone. It's this magical, ethereal realm. And then Bernard Chang as the artist, when he goes to the past, it gives it this more anime vibe. At least I think that was Chang. Let me double check. And the art is a little bit different, not by much, than the main story. So let me find the title page. Of course, they make it difficult because I think that's him, because he's listed on there as the main artist. He does it all. So when he goes to the past to tell the story, the art takes a more of an anime manga style, but it works here because it's differentiating time, So it's a very solid book still. It definitely is. I don't want to say it's bogged down by the Lazarus planet stuff, but it definitely feels like Yang had to change course just a little bit to make it all fit. So, a lot of just talk about the rains and all the, other going ons with Nezza and Pigsy being gone and stuff. As for the ending, the fact that Marcus wanted to learn how to make clones, like full-on clones, I feel like that's the out with the Ultra Humanite here, is that that's just one of his clones that he's learned to make. But we'll see how it goes. So, again, thoroughly enjoyable, a fun read. I'm going to give this a 7.5.
All right, cool. That'll do us out of the part of the show. We pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books technically. Although I won't be making it to 5 this week because DC are doing me dirty by only giving me 3 books to read. So we'll start with panel / moment. Matt, what do you got?
I get pull from Flash or Gotham City or Ivy. So what am I going to pull from? But I think I'll pull from Flash, and it's when they try to use the power source as a battering ram, and out pops this kid that's been in there. Okay. I think that's just a fun Bart moment. So yeah, that'll be mine.
I think I'll just be simple and go with the final panel of Gotham City Year 1.
That's a good one. That's a good one too.
it made me hype for the next issue. It was atmospheric, had a lot of build to it. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was that, or from Gotham City, it was going to be the tarot scene, just that page of her, and just again the tension is super. It's really really there. So yeah.
Yeah. Cover of the week. I've just got one that I'm just going to jump in with, and that is a variant to Gotham City Year One, and it is the Tony Shasteen variant with Slam walking in the rain on the city street. It is beautiful.
That's super super cool.
Yeah, that was just the one that immediately stuck out to me. There's some okay Batman covers and there's some okay Flash covers, but nothing that felt like, oh, that's my pick. So what you got?
So there's a Serge Acuna cover for Flash that I really really like. It's got Wally and Linda running on water, and there's a watercolor almost Maniple-esque vibe to it. But that's not my pick. I just wanted to single that out. Poison Ivy has a lot of fun variants, as we've been mentioning throughout. There's a Dotson's cover that's really nice that has Ivy. Let me pull this up here. My computer's being slow. It's got Ivy watering Harley in like this big like daffodil bulb or a tulip bulb. That's super nice. There's a another the main cover, the Carla Cohen is nice. It's like this painted kind of one, but Dan Mora has it looks like Harley and Ivy laying in the poppies from Wizard of Oz, and just their whole dynamic. Everything looks nice. It's the cover I ended up buying this week, anyways. So the Dan Mora variant for Poison Ivy is my pick.
All right, cool. Art of the week.
Am I going first or are you going first? I'm going first.
You can go first.
Yeah. Phil Hester's really good. I want to say that. The coloring, everything, fantastic. However, Takara and the way that he did the whole Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, their whole interactions, the colors, everything, I'm going to give it to Poison Ivy this week.
Okay. I gotta go with Hester. Out of the three I read, it was by far the best art. There was no question. All right, rank your books, Matt.
All right, so number 1's going to be Gotham City Year One. 2's going to be Ivy. 3 Flash. 4 Monkey Prince. 5 Batman.
Take out the books that I didn't read, and it's pretty much the same for me, I think. Number 1's Gotham City Year One. Number 2 is Flash. Number 3 is Batman. Simple, straightforward, is what it is. Let's look ahead to next week, though, and I'll tell you what's coming out from DC. So coming out, we have Batman Beyond the White Knight issue 8, Batgirls issue 15, Swamp Thing Green Hell issue 2.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I will probably make an effort to read the first issue again, because it's been like nearly 2 years since issue 1 came out. I remember loving it, but it's been ages.
I just remember a certain character showing up. I don't want to spoil it if people haven't read.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Towards the end, and just the art being like top notch. Other than that, not so much. I don't know. I don't remember much.
Yeah. But excited. That'll probably be the big talking point of next week's episode. Assuming there's not like huge news to discuss. Also, we have I Am Batman issue 18, Lazarus Planet Dark Fate issue 1, Danger Street issue 3. So another big Tom King book to talk about next week, which is cool. We got Batman Incorporated issue 5, Wildcats issue 4, Batman The Adventure Continues season 3 issue 2, the Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 5, Batman Spawn Unplugged issue 1, and Mad Magazine issue 30. So yeah, cool. Yeah. So it's not a big list of books next week that we're reading, but some big examples in there. Swamp Thing and Danger Street being the heavy hitters.
Yes.
So very cool.
Let's see who's in this Lazarus Planet book, because there was a Ram V story in this week's. See if they're gonna try to goad me into getting this one too. Oh, there's Seeley, Williamson, Culver, Alyssa Wong. Oh man. Who's the characters? Oh, it looks like there's a Doom Patrol. Oh, man. We'll see. We'll see if I have time for it.
I don't know. I kind of gave up on after the first couple.
Yeah.
I'll read the Omega issue, because that's the end of the actual story. But
the one where stuff actually happens in.
Yeah.
I will say I'm getting caught up in my time, and a lot of them just seem like teases for things in the future. So, you know, that's a bit sad because it doesn't seem like Lazarus Planet's a proper event in that, like, it's just doing things to set things up. You know, but yeah.
Yeah. I was just looking at this Batman Spawn issue that's coming out. It looks like a one-shot to me.
Is it? Because the cover is just a black and white cover of the first one of McFarlane and Capullo's Batman Spawn.
Oh, is this a reprint of an old story?
I think so. Unplugged. Let's see. Two Dark Heroes, blah, 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 from the shadows. Only remaining 2 decades for.
Yeah, I mean, I figure it's a black and white comic, but I assumed it was a new thing. But fair enough if it's not. So okay, all right. Well, there you go. That's what's coming next week. But that'll about wrap us up for the show. On this week's episode. We'll be back next time with the books mentioned, and of course, whatever else happens in the week DC related, or sometimes otherwise if we're feeling feisty. But you can, of course, support the show by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us over there for however much you like. But you know, $5 and up, you get access to the show whenever it's ready on Saturday night. You get it a little bit early before it goes out on the Sunday. So if that's of interest, go and have a look. I'll thank our Patreon producers right now, which is one of the higher tiers over at Patreon. So thank you very much. Oh, Matt's hiding it a little bit.
What? Hiding what?
Thank you very much to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Bordnow, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Al Treisman. And thank you to all our patrons who support the content. Of course, you can support us by sharing us, rating the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. Give us 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and ding the bell for notifications and all that stuff. But you know, generally share us out with other DC fans and you know the usual things. I don't know. I've done the promotion bit like 340 times now, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say anymore.
You know, like, subscribe, all that stuff they say on you know, that type of stuff.
All of
Check
it helps.
us out on Twitter.
All of it's really important, but it's just you say it so many times, the words start to have no meaning anymore.
I get you. One of the podcasts I listened to, they had a guest on this week that is just, he's very good at all his plugs because he does them, you know, multiple times a week. And he did his plugs better than the host did his own. It was very funny. So, but yeah, when you do it as many times, it just becomes route. But yeah, go yell at Connor. Tell him that, you know, you guys miss him or something. I mean, don't lie if you can help it. But, you know, give Connor some love too.
I don't approve of that message. But this has been Comics From The Multiverse. We'll see you next time. Keep reading DC Comics and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.